Hello and welcome to the Imagery tutorial. Imagery is found in the Maps and Analysis tab. Once Maps and Analysis is selected, click on the Select Imagery drop-down where you will see the two subcategories of imagery provided. In the earlier tutorial we looked at soil monitoring, and in this tutorial we're going to focus on crop monitoring. Crop monitoring is split into two subcategories. We have satellite imagery, chlorophyll and NDVI, and we have yield maps, which is a separate tutorial that you will be able to view soon. Imagery is broken into two subcategories. We have NDVI, which is split from NDVI to NDVI early, and chlorophyll, which is shown as GCVI. NDVI stands for Normalized Differential Vegetative Index and is a proxy for crop variation. We split our NDVI into two categories. We have NDVI early, useful for crops in early growth stages, where the scale of the NDVI sensitivity does not pick up the variation, and NDVI, which is useful for crops in the mid-growth period, typically for a winter crop from December through till May-June. In May-June, NDVI tends to saturate, where we switch to chlorophyll, which is a more sensitive form of imagery, but only really useful in the latter growth stages of a crop's life. So we're going to take a look at NDVI now. So I click on NDVI, and the layer will then be loaded into the Maps and Analysis window. You'll see down the bottom that there is a timeline which has icons in, and these icons show when we last captured an image for your farm. The icons are a sun, which tells us that we have a clear image that's come from Sentinel, which is a true optical image. We have a sun with a purple dot, which is a clear image which has come from Clear Sky, which is radar derived optical imagery. We have a partial, which is a cloud and a sun, which shows that we have captured some of the farm, but other parts of the farm were covered by cloud. And then we have a cloudy image, which shows that we couldn't capture an image because the whole farm had cloud cover. As you hover over these icons, you'll get a pop-up which shows the raw image that was taken from Sentinel, so we can show exactly how much was affected by cloud cover or not. Along the timeline are the different dates that an image was captured, and we can drag this timeline by clicking and holding and moving the mouse from left to right to access other images, or we can click on the calendar in the bottom right hand corner, which then shows images from each year that we've been able to collect imagery for you. If you are an original customer, you may have imagery going back as far as 2014. As I mentioned, we also have GCVI, which is another form of imagery. So if you hover over the chlorophyll in the drop-down menu, you will see GCVI as an option to click on. As I mentioned before, GCVI is a form of imagery which has a lot of use for the latter growth stages of a crop's life. GCVI is more sensitive and tends to have a very close correlation to the amount of chlorophyll in a leaf. As I mentioned, we have two separate providers for satellite imagery. We have Sentinel imagery, which is provided by the European Space Agency, which is your more traditional optical imagery. This imagery is very good and has been in use in the agricultural market for the past 15 years. The issue we have with Sentinel imagery is if there is cloud cover, you do not capture an image for your farm. In the last 18 months, we have been working tirelessly to find an alternative form of imagery, and we were delighted to announce our partnership with Aspia and launch the Clear Sky product earlier this year. Clear Sky is a radar-derived form of imagery, and using radar allows us to penetrate clouds. The readings that come back from the radar are then fed into an algorithm which produces an optical output to mimic what we would see on Sentinel. You can tell whether you have a Sentinel or clear sky image by the purple dot, or if I click on an image that I'd like to look at, in the bottom right hand corner it shows me my provider, and if I click now on the sun with a purple dot, I can see that's changed to clear sky. If I hover over that, it shows me that it's clear sky and the resolution. There is also a pop-up which you can click on, which takes you through to a document which tells you more about clear sky and how it works. Once we have chosen an image that we're happy to look at, we can then start comparing that against other layers stored within Contour. So for example, I may want to look at the same week the previous year to see if there's trends in my crop. So again, we can switch between 1, 2 and 4 views. And then I can load up another layer to look at. So I'd like to compare the chlorophyll from one year to the next. So I can click on here, and then using the calendar, I can go back to the year, to the month, and then pick a day in which I would like to view the image. And we can then see side by side, okay, is there trends in this field? Is it doing what I expect it to do? And is there something that I may have been able to do something about before now? As well as different imagery types, I can also add in observations on top of my imagery, much as we did in the soil analysis tutorial. So turning on observations, I can see any observation that's either been dropped by the farmer, my account manager, or my agronomist. At this point, I can then dig deeper, select an observation, and see what data is stored against that. I may want to look at my imagery versus other layers such as soil analysis to see if there's any trending through soil analysis to crop variation. Again, this is done quite simply by going into the second window, picking the select imagery, and then loading up the layer that I would like to look at. Again, we can compare this against soil scan and also against yield, which we'll cover in a later tutorial. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial, and if you require any further information on satellite imagery, please contact your RHIZA account manager.